A rich land at the heart of the Gulf of Guinea. Deep forests, much heat, much rain, plenty of sun. This land is Côte d'Ivoire. World's largest producer of cocoa. World's largest producer of cola nuts. Africa's largest exporter of tuna. Africa's largest producer of latex. Africa's largest producer of bananas. Africa's largest producer of mangoes. World's second largest producer of cashew nuts. Africa's second largest producer of palm oil. Third largest producer of cotton. Third largest producer of coffee. Agriculture makes up 1/3 of GDP. It generates 70% of export earnings and involves 2/3 of the active workforce. Today, as in the past, the success of this country is built on agriculture. Upon independence in 1960, President Houphouët-Boigny grounded the development strategy in agriculture. In just a few years, Côte d'Ivoire became one of West Africa's most prosperous nations. 20 years of prosperity built on the country's natural riches. This was known as the Ivorian Miracle. But in the 80s, the price of raw materials collapsed because of the international financial crisis. This heralded an era of deep questioning. Starting in 2011, ambitious yet achievable objectives were set by President Alassane Ouattara, aiming to turn Côte d'Ivoire into an emerging country by 2020. Modernization of agriculture, rehabilitation of forests, local processing of agricultural produce. And the facts are clear. For at least the coming 15 years, agriculture will remain Côte d'Ivoire's development engine. From 2012 to 2016, about $4 billion will be committed to the National Agricultural Investment Fund, or PNIA. This program is financed by members of the G8 as well as technical and financial partners. The PNIA is the reference frame for all investments in agriculture, plant production, waterways and forestry, animal and fishing resources. The goal of PNIA is to sustainably boost investment in agriculture. With support from the state, that investment will be essentially made through the private sector. Expected results? Food security, 9% growth rate in agriculture, poverty alleviation through the creation of 2.4 million jobs, especially for women and the youth. Côte d'Ivoire is one of the few sub-Saharan countries with plenty to eat. Yet, this population is growing fast, and the food security of the region depends in part on Côte d'Ivoire. Time to take action. At 14 million tons, the yearly production of such essential food crops as yams, cassava, plantains and cereals is well above domestic needs. The average Ivorian eats 70 kilos per year. With small-scale operations around the country, the focus of the National Development Strategy, output has tripled in a few years. Self-sufficiency is planned for 2016. By that time, Côte d'Ivoire will export across the region. To further increase the production of basic food crops, several steps are required. The creation of regional wholesale markets, the regular maintenance of rural access roads, the rehabilitation of irrigation infrastructure, support for mechanization, processing equipment, suppression of shifting, as well as slash and burn cultivation. Animal rearing must grow. Bovine, ovine, and caprine species are raised across the country. Poultry and pig farms are multiplying around cities, yet Côte d'Ivoire still experiences a large shortfall in animal proteins. Dairy production, for example, only covers 12% of needs and must grow to keep up with rising living standards. Côte d'Ivoire is Africa's largest exporter of tuna. Yet, despite fish being the main source of animal protein, domestic fishing only covers 20% of domestic needs. Aquaculture therefore remains an absolute must. The coffee and cocoa combination is still emblematic of the country. At over 1.6 million tons, Côte d'Ivoire supplies 40% of world cocoa production. It aims for 2 million tons by 2020, with 50% locally processed. This requires renovating the plantations, elevating overall bean quality, ensuring a more effective phytosanitary control and mastering marketing activities. And around 800,000 growers must learn to abide by mandatory international standards. Thanks to the renewal of plantations, coffee production has resumed. It has already reached beyond 100,000 tons. With some 434,000 hectares spread between agro-industrial complexes and private outgrowers, rubber cultivation is expanding. The objective of the 7th Rubber Master Plan is to boost yearly latex production from the current 317,000 tons to 600,000 tons. Advanced agronomic research, the right climate, and fast-growing demand in edible oils have boosted palm oil production. The oil palm covers 240,000 hectares, including 75,000 managed by agro-industrial complexes. Village growers contribute 69% of production. The 3rd Oil Palm Master Plan will increase production to 600,000 by 2020. The cashew tree has experienced an amazing expansion into small family plantations. The objective is to increase domestic processing from the current 10% to 100% by 2020. For cotton in the north and central regions, animal-drawn cultivation will be encouraged, and access to consumables and selected seeds will be improved. The objective is to double production from the 400,000 tons registered in 2014. Cane sugar fields cover 150,000 hectares in the savannah area, with a yearly sugar output of about 200,000 tons. Village plantations are starting to crop up alongside the agro-industrial complexes. Bananas and pineapples thrive in the south. Mangoes are expanding in the north. The 370,000 tons of fruits produced yearly are very much sought after in Europe. The National Protection, Rehabilitation and Replanting Policy implemented in recent years demands heavy investments. Programs are gradually implemented in the eastern, southern and northern part of the country. Agronomic research in Côte d'Ivoire has been quite advanced for over 60 years. 150 high-level specialists work in the various research and production units across the nation. Several of the world's highest-yielding tropical varieties were developed by Ivorian agronomic research, including in oil palm, cocoa, rubber, yams, cassava and rice. Côte d'Ivoire's agriculture is on the move. Its focus is on improving competitiveness and raising the standards of living of people working in this sector. As an example, 60% of the wealth generated by coffee, cocoa and cashew nuts goes to the producers. 3,500 cooperatives operate, along with 120 cooperative unions and 4 federations, mostly in coffee and cocoa, cotton, cashew nuts, oil palm and rubber. They focus on transportation, mechanization, microfinancing and insurance for the farming operations. With thriving forests and wildlife, with a climate suited for agricultural diversification. With 24 million hectares of arable land, of which only 40% is exploited. With 77 billion cubic meters of available water per year and water demand estimated at 9 billion cubic meters. With a qualified and competitive workforce. With only 25% of the genetic potential exploited. With 80% of agricultural production still to be processed. With secured rural land tenure. And with 2 last-generation ports to support exports, Côte d'Ivoire has an exceptional agro-industrial potential. Agriculture is the wealth of Côte d'Ivoire. Agriculture is the pride of its people.